So, let's talk about maybe kind of making something pop. Maybe what we want to pop in our schedule a little more is something like the area, right? How would we do that? Maybe give it something, maybe look a little more interesting. Let's go back to the appearance tab. And back on the appearance tab, um, let's look at a couple of different things. If we go back to formatting, notice how there's a feature, and some of you mentioned, and it's called conditional format. I'm going to go to area. I'm going to click on conditional format. And in the area field, like where I'm at right now, it's talking about a test. And what that test means is I want to look at some information. Let's say I want to know every room in here that is greater than or equal to, let's say, 200 square feet. Okay? And I can say, give it a background color. Make it kind of pop with red. You know, red's always, you know, it kind of makes us look, right? Something that's red often draws your attention. So I'm going to hit OK. And then I'm going to say OK here. And OK again. And now, boom, look at that. All of these are now showing up red. Everything that's 200 square foot or more is showing up. And if I go to my schedule, look at how it shows up in my schedule. That's pretty neat, huh? I can make that show up as red in my schedule. Now, what's nice about this is if I go back here and I say, let's go back to sorting and group, formatting. I can say in the area conditional format, maybe instead of greater than or equal to, I can say, let's show something that's maybe equal to 200 square feet, right? Is there anything that's exactly 200 square feet? Nope. You see that? So you see how that feature changed right away. Let's go back in again, right? And under that area conditional format, I can say maybe I can say it's between 200 square foot and 250 square foot, right? I want to look at that value this time. Boom, there's that. And now look at that. Anything between 200 and 250, it picks that up. So what's nice about this is if you're a project architect, one thing that hopefully I taught you is that square footage matters in a project because every square foot cost, and that's how costs are figured out in a project. Because a contractor will say, well, in a project like this, a commercial project, we're usually somewhere between $8 and $10 a square foot, or $4 to $6 a square foot, or residential is somewhere between $5 and $7 a square foot, depending on your finishes. Well, if I want to start counting some areas and look at square footages of areas and start cutting back or changing them, well, this is a helpful tool to help me do that. And again, what's nice is going back in here, what I can do is say in that field, that's the background color I want. Right? I can change that background color, which is nice because red's a little bold and it's going to take a lot of ink on your printer. But while the project is in process, you can use that. And then what you can say is clear all and go back. And now that portion of it is gone. Okay? So that's a nice, helpful feature that we can use. We talked about a few other things. One thing I didn't mention, when I made that room schedule bigger and bolder, when I go back here, notice I can change the title text as well, right? I can change it to a different type of font, just like I did the first one. I won't take the time to do it right now. I don't think it's that important, but it's just something that you can do. So just like you learned how to change the title text, you can change the header text. And when they talk about header text, they're talking about this feature here, right? And then on body text, they're talking about this. And so, you know what? No, you know what? Let's just take a moment. It's not going to take all that long to show you that. What you have to do, though, you always remember is you go under your annotate tab, you got to set up a font first. So you remember before I had my schedule header text What if I duplicated this and I said schedule, you know what? I should, here, you know what would be better here? What if I rename this one to schedule title text? I didn't think that through before, right? So now that's title text, and then I duplicate it and I call this schedule header text, right? And I say with this one, instead of a 1/4 inch, I probably ought to make that, let's make that an 1/8 inch, right? And when I hit OK, and I go back in here to appearance, and I say make that schedule title text. Remember, I renamed that one. Now that's schedule header text, right? And so under schedule header text, what if I wanted to make that bold, right? So I better go back out again. And so hopefully you're kind of seeing the process that you're going to need to use here. I've already got that bold checked. Where did I go wrong here? I thought I changed the size. Maybe I didn't change the size the way I should have before. Let's try this one more time. Hold on. So I think what I needed to do was, if I made this a 1/4 inch, 0.25. Let's try that one more time. And then I went here and I said to appearance, and I said schedule header text, and I said make this schedule header text. You know, should make that a little bigger. I'm not quite sure why I'm not seeing the difference there. Let me try one more thing. Let's go back to appearance. And it might just be that because this is supposed to be schedule title text and this is schedule header text, under the text feature, I'm probably missing just something small. That's a 1/4 inch and that's bold. And then under schedule header text, let's see if I can, let me change that and make it, let me see what I might be missing here. It might be because this field isn't large enough for it right now, and that's probably why it's not showing up the way it ought to show up. A better way to kind of, you know, it's showing you that here, it's just not showing you that in the schedule. Does that make sense? So whereas that changed that time, maybe if I go back to annotate now, and maybe that's what I was missing before, and I go back here and I go into schedule header text, and instead of a 1/2 inch, I make this an 1/8 inch, we'll actually see it. Because as we said before, things are supposed to show up a certain way here, and they're not going to show up the same way elsewhere. So now I've got a 1/4 inch, I've got an 1/8 inch. Maybe another happy medium for this would have been to go in and say, let's make this text, let's call it schedule header text. Let's make that 3/8 of an inch. All right. Okay, and still, you know, that's a little bigger than we would want it to be because 3/8 is bigger than 1/2. I just wanted you to see that change, right? You can adjust and change all of those features in there, which is very helpful. Again, not as big as I wouldn't want it that big, but again, it's good to be able to see those sorts of things, but understanding where that change has to happen is where it's crucial, and this is where it has to happen. I'm going to go all the way back here. I'm going to change this to an 1/8 again and get it back to its normal size. And once I do that, you see it's down to an 1/8, and now I can actually make these a lot smaller, right? And again, we can adjust. Does anybody remember how to adjust that, the justification in here so that we can make these even smaller? Well, again, we have to go back to our room schedule, and we're going to go to our formatting, and we're going to say for the number, we're going to say we want it to be justified. What if we said, let's justify it to the center? Let's justify them all to the center. Can we select them all at once and say alignment center? Yeah, that's a handy tool. And now they're all justified in the center. I can go back to my sheet, and now I can say, I can make this department one a little smaller, right? And I can make this area one a little smaller. And you know what I probably want to do? You see how these are lowercase? That's my bad. I should have made those uppercase. So if I go back here to ground level and I click on one of the, or I'm sorry, I click on the actual room itself, right? And I tab, or I hover over here. Let me see if I can find that room. Or, maybe I can grab a bunch of things and say filter and say check none and say give me rooms. Remember that? And now on those rooms, oops, I think I grabbed too many of them. Let's see if I can just, there's the one. That's not the one I wanted, but let me go ahead and try and grab this one more time. See if I can grab this room. Yeah, let's filter. And these are the little niggling things that you gotta know how to do sometimes. But now in here in common, maybe I want that to be an uppercase C and hit apply. Can I change that? Oh, that's weird. It's not letting me change that. I might need to do that to all of them at the same time. Okay, but if I go back to the schedule now, it didn't update them. So I don't know if I can fix that. I'll probably have to try and fix that. I'll mess with that a little bit during our break, see if I can get those to be uppercase. Really not a super important thing right now, but I'll go ahead and work on doing that, and I'll show you where to do it. And then when we get back, we'll move into our last portion today, which I think might just be grouping and ungrouping a couple of things. It'll be our shortest video, and then we'll try and wrap up by 3 or 5 minutes after 3. Okay?